Okay, so says it. Kampai.
Hi.
Asahi
Today's
red wine.
broadcast, today's broadcast is brought by Asahi Beer, which I have been given a case of from the students of Hadashi Dojo
Oh,
for
really?
my visit last week.
I don't get stuff like that.
Well, that's because you're not loved as much as I am.
That'll be it.
That's the
Great.
short answer. No money.
Oh, well then.
I didn't want money. I just wanted the love of the Hadashi students, and I got a very nice case of them.
I was going to say you can't pay your rent in beer, but maybe you can.
Maybe you can. And if any Hadashi students who want it, you need to send me another one this week. Joke. All right. Well, probably I don't know about you, but I've had some nice comments from people about these. So
Yeah.
there must be something there. I love it because every time I look at this, if you ever look it on the YouTube channel, there's always one dislike.
It's that.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know why I do it, but I do. But there is seriously, there's always one dislike. Yeah. I mean, I've got a rough idea.
I was gonna say, is it someone that hates you or someone that hates me? But it could equally be someone that hates both.
I think it could easily be both.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah.
Cool. Oh well, should we give them something to dislike?
5 questions, yeah?
5 questions and a beer, although it's wine in my case.
Well, I'm on Japanese beer because I have true Bushido spirit.
Okay, moving on. Shall I start?
Go on, then.
Okay, you like this one?
Oh, please don't ask me about gradings or Zen.
No. So I was talking to Mark from Shikoku over the week.
Yeah.
And we were talking about different things and this, that, and the other. And I said to him, because we were talking about how kind of you transition in not later part of your life, but we get to middle age and then you transition. And I said, it's like, slaying the dragon and then saving the maiden. And he was like, oh, what do you mean by that? And I was like, I don't know really where I got it from. And it wasn't a particularly offhanded comment. Because then he said, well, I studied medieval literature, and so that for me means, and I was like, oh no, what have I got myself into?
Yes.
Because he was like, what do you mean by that? And I was like,
don't ask me about medieval literature either. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, what I said to him was, what I meant by it was that we spend like the first part of our life, like the up to midday, let's say 50, from 0 to 50, slaying the dragon, and from 50 up, saving the maiden. And what I meant by that was that you spend the first half of your life kind of fighting your ego, creating an empire, kind of trying to satisfy those drives within you, and then in your second part of your life, you enjoy those kind of benefits and that you've created. But more importantly, you give yourself to others. So it's like the metaphor is like the dragon is your ego, and the maiden is saving the maiden is giving yourself to others and helping them, and so that's roughly that throwaway comment was what I meant. So I just thought, I've got other ideas about other things to say about that, but I just thought, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I see that. You see straight away. Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, I'm still wrestling with this ego. I was training on yesterday and doing yokogeri. I was still trying to bang out those yokogeris, and my hip doesn't half hurt today. But I saw a great little clip on Jesse M. Camp did something on Weishiru, and I've always liked Weishiru.
Yeah.
And I came to another random link came up. And it was an old guy talking about it, and he did this great thing about this Weishiru thrust, and he goes like, Weishiru thrust, instant power, and he was like 82, and then he just said, I can't do that, and I loved it. I thought, yeah, he's great. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like the Bodhisattva idea of also in Mahayana Buddhism, you don't claim enlightenment, you stay. You stay in the cycle of samsara. You stay in the world to help people.
Okay.
So it's so the idea is you retain enlightenment, but then you don't go to nirvana, and you stay because you give yourself to others, which is saving the maiden. And I think there becomes a time in your karate life, which maybe I'm at now, where you become a coach, for want of a better word, or a sensei,
Yeah.
and help people. So that definitely resonates with me. And I think I was thinking about this today, actually, because I was thinking, like, I don't need to demonstrate everything all the time. And I talked last week in Lancaster, and it was great, but killed me. And suddenly I found myself doing everything again.
Yeah.
And then about 3/4 of the way through, I thought, I started to use. There's a kid called Charlie who's at one of Andrew Sensei's students,
Yeah.
and I thought, I'll get Charlie to do it. And then suddenly I had this revelation. And I said to the class, do it like, watch Charlie, try, be like Charlie, which is,
Yeah.
So definitely, I think you have to do that.
Yeah.
And again, I think we have a history of this, on these things, of being honest. I think maybe, like, even Yahara Sensei, when he did his grading, his MAB 10th Dan grading, he did something, and then he ended up getting one of his students to do his kata, didn't he?
Yeah. Oscar. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought, mate, it's just like, Yahara Sensei, you don't need to do a grading. But I think, yeah. So does that answer your question? I think it's important. You have to stop being the guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem in karate, in life, and men and egos. And I still suffer from this. And maybe dojo instructors still do.
Yeah.
Especially, small dojo instructors. I always said to you, do you remember this? You've got to be the best guy in the room, the best guy in the dojo.
Yeah.
And I think maybe as you get older, you've got to be the most knowledgeable guy. You've got to be the best coach in the dojo, but you're never going to be as good as young people. One more thing I'll say. I watched recently Shina Sensei fighting Kokoban. Have you ever seen that?
I have, yeah.
You have, yeah. Anyone who hasn't watched it, just YouTube it for Kokoban and Shina Sensei. And it's a great Japanese cultural thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shirai, Shina was brilliant in the day. Great big scary guy. I did a class with him once in Japan, and he comes on and he stands still like this. And Kokoban, top of his game, just stands there thinking, probably not knowing what to do. Senpai Kohai thing. And then in the end he goes, BAM! He scores on him, doesn't he? And then he does it again. But the whole thing took about 3 minutes when it could have taken about 30 seconds. Yeah.
And I was talking to, I mean, on a different kind of, the same idea, but like a different kind of slant. I was talking to, I was at breakfast with after morning training with the guys on Thursday, and I was talking about this. We were talking about like something which kind of probably made it come to mind. That's why I said it to Mark. But I was saying to him, saying to Ross, because we were talking about him kind of moving to America.
Yeah.
And we were talking about kind of like the dynamics of a group and the politics and how kind of jealousies and kind of, especially within distance, right? Like when there's a distance between two people, like then kind of jealousies can kind of develop. And I said to him, I said, it's my responsibility to make sure that I am not in any way financially motivated by the time that you go to America. I says, because can you imagine if, because well, up until recently, of course, I've been going to America like 4 or 5 times a year, 6 maybe. North America anyway, certainly 6, 7 times a year. And then all of a sudden Ross is there, and within the HDKI US and maybe even Canada, he's suddenly doing kind of what I could say, they're my gigs.
Yeah.
And I said, I never want to go, hang on a minute, he's just nicked $1,000 from me. Or he's just, because someone's invited him instead of me, because A, he's closer, B, he's younger, and C, he's cheaper, like that type of thing. Yep. And I said to him, I says, really, my responsibility now is to make sure that I'm never in that position to make a judgment based on finances. Because that's how the ego kind of starts to take hold. And that's what I mean. And that's what I meant by kind of, in many ways, part of what I meant was fighting the dragon, fighting that desire to be comfortable, always chasing, power, status, money, that type of thing. So I meant it much more in that sense.
Well, I think the mark of a person is, they say, if you have great power, is it wield it gently? I mean, I think the mark of someone is, if you're given power and status and money, is how you deal with that.
Yeah.
And, you need to be, I suppose classy might be the word, but also benevolent and give yourself to others. But that model of, in the karate world, and kung fu world, taekwondo world, the world, is that normally one bloke gets all the power and keeps it till it's wrested away from him, and
Yeah.
he's either assassinated, hung on a lamppost, or dies.
Yeah.
And karate organisations have kept that going, haven't they?
And I think it's also like, again, if we're using the metaphor of dragon, the bigger the dragon that you have to slay, the more difficult it is, the more you keep on pushing it to a point in your life where it's almost impossible to slay the dragon. You know, so you get people who are past that middle-aged point in their life where they should have built the foundation that they can sit comfortably in and then start giving back. But they're no longer, they're still chasing it and still chasing it. And it's ever decreasing circles. Their ability to fight that ego becomes less and less. And then they become more demanding. And that's where things fall out. People fall out of things. Organizations.
So what happens is they develop their brand of karate based on their personality.
Yeah.
And then when they die, the whole organization goes. As far as I can tell from Nishiyama Sensei, who was brilliant, I don't know, but I can tell of his organization, the ITKF, as far as I can tell, I may be wrong, that's kind of gone now.
Yeah, I think there's a group in Poland where it's still quite.
I think there's two groups, yeah. And Kaze Sensei, I think there's sort of a Kaze group.
Yeah.
But it's become moribund. You know, you're doing this dead, I'm not going to be rude again, but dead guys karate.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's set in stone. Yeah, I mean, I think that's vital. I mean, the world has changed. I think, you know, post this COVID thing has definitely changed the world.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I think, you know, we all have to, you know, slay that dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. Before it's too late.
People don't want to slay the dragon because it's great to be a big fat dragon, breathing fire and making all the money and being, everyone says us to you all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know if it particularly leads to happiness.
No, but I think people won't put up with it anymore.
Yeah.
I think, sure. But like everything in this world, it all goes quite slowly.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But yes, let's save that maiden and kill that dragon.
And kill the dragon. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Right. Okay. This is a question on. I don't know whether to do Paul or Incense's question first or mine.
I think I don't know why I'm going to start getting people to ask questions for you because I think.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll do my question then. I thought I'd do some fun questions for a change.
Okay.
It's not about medieval literature. It's not about psychology. So lots of senseis from like Yahara Sensei, who I just mentioned in his kata, Asai Sensei, those are kata, Stan Smith did the kata. If just for fun, I mean, I know you'll never do this. If you did a Scott Langley Sensei kata, what would it be? Can you imagine doing it just for fun? And I mean, this has got a follow-on question again, just for fun.
If I created my own kata, if I did,
I mean for fun, I mean, I'm not saying you do it. Just
if I did, it would be a yin and yang kata, two forms, one offensive, one defensive, and maybe it would change between one and the other. That you'd learn separately, but then you could pair up.
Actually, that's the sort of answer I'm after.
Okay, but like I probably have, although I haven't deliberately, but I probably subconsciously, shamelessly stolen that idea from Paolo Blafio Sensei.
Sun and the Moon.
The Sun and the Moon. Although that was I don't think that's ever taught as a kata per se. When he does it, always does it as a kind of kumite exercise. But that is beautiful in its simplicity. And so I would probably, if I did feel so inclined, do something like that. And I think it would involve kind of maybe like different ways to kind of create power, different ways to move, and it would be kind of like different styles. You know what I mean? Forcing people to kind of do different ways of movements, like, you know, like, because we can all see, like, you know, there's the Yahara Sensei way of doing karate, and Gagawa Sensei, and there's Sensei, and blah 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 blah, and all these different ways of doing karate, and all generically called Shotokan. I think I'd try to encompass as many of those styles as possible in order to produce a kind of comprehensive, well-rounded karateka.
I'll tell you, I asked this question because I saw the slingshot shot putter
Oh yeah,
surfer one, and that reminded me of like a much advanced version of Tenno Kata. It was like kind of doing the same thing, but
yeah,
in three different ways. You know,
yeah,
it's just a fun question, but I think it's quite interesting because you've sort of, you're putting drills together anyway.
yeah,
It's just like, I mean, I always think you always said aside katas are training katas.
yeah.
You know, I
You
just
know,
thought,
what I'd also do though is, like the Shorinji Kempo guys who have the body armor.
yeah,
I really like that idea where they have that kind of special body armor type thing, isn't it? And it's
Bogu,
kind of,
yeah, yeah,
what's it called? Is it got a name? Was it?
Bogu,
Oh, Bogu.
Bogu, 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 yeah,
Cool. I would have it that they would wear stuff like that. So again, probably a little bit like the Shorinji Kempo Embu.
yeah, yeah.
Although I would make sure that it's kata-esque. Like I would make sure that it could be taught as a kata, start with the form, and then lead to function.
Yeah.
Whereas I think when it's just straight away two people together, it's much more functional than form. So like there's refinement there within as what a kata should be, like about refinement and that micro-analyzing of movement, and have that aspect of it, and then be able to morph into function. Rather than it only being function, never escaping that function. Like I think, like the moon and sun exercise that Paolo Sensei does, and the Embu that the Shorinji Kempo guys, it's so based in function. And there's a beauty to that, and they're great, and that's I'm not kind of trying to disparage that at all, because I think they're wonderful. But I think for a kata, there's also that form and that refinement and analyzing of movement that I think is really super important. So that's what I do.
Yeah, good. Okay, good answer. Do you want on the fun questions? If when we went to Okinawa, a number of times, we constantly seem to meet these older guys who sort of end up doing weapons training. Could you ever imagine yourself doing weapons training? Does it interest you? And is there a particular weapon you'd be interested in?
I'd love to be able to use nunchaku properly.
Yeah, well, we can all talk to Tommy Sensei.
Tommy's good, yeah. And Rick Horton Sensei is really good at it, yeah. And I'd love to do it only because it's cool.
Yeah. Do you know that there are no official nunchaku katas in Okinawan Kobudo?
Oh, really?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
So, I mean, that doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yeah. Like, no. So if I was going to learn a weapon, I would do that. I'd learn nunchaku because they're cool. But you know what? Like I. Well, you know quite well that I learned quite a number of elastic band magic tricks. But like that was just because I really enjoyed learning them, and the dexterity.
Very good as well. Very good.
But they were really cool. So like, if you're out on a night with friends, you can't whip out your nunchaku just to be cool, but you can with a pair of elastic bands.
Yeah.
So, although it's a very fine line, I think, because like after a couple of times doing it, everyone, including you, will be going, "Oh, Christ's sake!" Okay.
I'd say, with the greatest respect, stick to karate.
Hey, excuse me. I am very good at them.
Scott Langley forgoes karate to become the greatest elastic band illusionist in the world.
It's all sleight of hand.
Yeah. No, it was just a fun question. Just because I mean, I think my view of Kobudo is sort of a lot of it is just playing with weapons.
Yeah.
Playing with toys, and
I don't know if Kobudo experts would agree with you on that one.
No, it's not. No, God, it's not. It's not, just from my point of view. And also because I think there's a scarcity of good teachers over here.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the idea of living in Okinawa and doing it. I'd do the bow. I mean, I think that's a great idea. But I suppose I'd be more drawn to the sword. More, and sort of antiquated Ryuku weapons don't interest me so much.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, though, that any argument not to really learn Kobudo that involves, you're not going to carry your staff.
I'm not into that. Yeah.
But any argument that kind of is based on the fact that it's impractical because you're not carrying those weapons around with you, I think can equally be applied to karate. So I'd
Yes.
always stay clear of those arguments that, like, it's not practical in any sense, because arguably karate isn't either. If you really want to learn how to hit someone super hard, kind of take up boxing or like
Thai boxing.
yeah, for every, and even with boxing though, even with boxing, you could say, well, okay, that that they can be super fit and they're super strong and they can hit really hard, but if someone is kicking them or taking out their legs, then at that longer range distance, then every system has its weaknesses, right? So I don't know. I think I don't do kobudo because of the impractical nature of it. I do it because um, I I just can't. I like the sense of micro adjusting my and learning how to use my body really correctly. Although in my head, I'm already hearing people say, Kabuto experts say, well, like weapons are just the same. Like if you're trying to control a bow staff, the way that you have to control that with your body is even more precise because it's a longer extension of your limbs. So yeah, I don't know what I'm saying there, but yeah, I have
Well,
no.
the argument is that people say you can't it's an exercise in distance, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah,
Kobudo changes the distance. But just from my point of view, I quite like a screamer, Filipino a screamer.
yeah,
I've seen stuff that's really flows and stuff.
yeah,
I mean, as an art, I think that's quite great to watch. It's
yeah,
very painful because you get whacked a lot.
yeah.
I mean, I think that's quite
Jan,
good.
Jan Spetsek Sensei from Denmark, he's
Yeah,
the eighth dan and he does the scream as well. He's eighth dan JKS, a really
yeah,
terrific karate guy,
yeah.
great instructor, great karate guy. But he also does that, and because there's the knife drill, isn't there? But there's also
Yeah,
hand,
Marley, I think it's called. Yeah, yeah.
and he showed me quite a few of the hand drills, and they are pretty amazing. So you can have
Yeah.
the sticks on, you can have the knives, and you can have the hands, just the hand stuff, and he was really amazing. He was super fast at it.
No, it is. Yeah, I mean, I think I find. I mean, I don't like knives. I can't. I don't like knives at all. But
Yeah.
I just remember I did change with Bruce Francis once. I've talked about him before, and he
Hmm.
said, you don't do martial arts for self-defense. He's from California. He said, if you want to do self-defense, get yourself, a Glock, and get yourself a gun. You know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh well.
All right, they were just my fun questions.
Okay, well, so that kind of leads me on to my next question.
Okay.
This is planned. Not that anybody watching this would think that any of these are planned, but okay, refinement versus new knowledge. So, how important for you is it to refine what you already know compared to learning new stuff or seeking out new knowledge?
Wow. See, I find new knowledge really hard.
Mm.
Really, really hard. And I'm sort of drawn, I'm drawn to Rick Jackson Sensei about letting go stuff, you know. But, I don't know. It's part of I think my crash is partly getting narrower and narrower and narrower. And then I rebel against that and trying to open it up again. So I was talking to Paul Uren Sensei today about this. We were talking about the combination in the grading syllabus, Idambarai, Uchiuki, Kazuki. And he had a really nice way of talking about driving in and whipping and hitting and using Shomen Hame. And I was talking about, perhaps a more basic way, sliding that Nikawashidachi compression and driving in. And that was a really good conversation. And yeah, I mean, I'm very much conflicted about that at the moment. And the other one, I did make your knee down today because I realised I'd forgotten it. Because Andrea asked me about it. She goes, "Can you teach me to make your knee down?" And I thought, no, I've forgotten it. So I just did that in the garden before. So yeah, it's a really good question. Really good question. And I think maybe you've got to try and get a balance between the two. Really, I think I think I've got my karate, like a stock my karate, which I'm not, which I'm relatively which I can do. Let's say I can do that, yeah. And that's not much really. And that's like Old Faithful, and I'll keep on practicing them. But yeah, I think you still have to look for new knowledge. Definitely, like we've talked about this before. I'm going to name names. Skiff, KGB, their karate set in amber doesn't change. We'll never do that. And
Yeah.
like talking to Paul today was really interesting for me, you know, because to think, yeah, I mean, we have to look for new knowledge, and also, you
Yeah.
know, go back to Bruce Lee, absorb what is useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think I'd never like to say no, that's it now. I'm not
Mm.
learning any new kata. You know, I mean, I think that's when I met you. It was when we met all the, you know, with JKS. Suddenly, I watched that Kagawa's VHS in them days. Was it called Best or How to Do Karate? And it was very
Artist.
basic. But do you
Yeah.
remember that? And it was
Yeah.
very basic, but it was like it's almost like earth shattering over here because
Yeah.
you know because people weren't doing that stuff. And I
Yeah.
was, you know, I remember seeing that. Yeah, so I would both refine what you've got, never let it go, but always be prepared to look at new stuff like Shirinji Kampo. I was hitting the bag the other day doing that Shirinji punch. You know,
All
it's
right.
just fun. Yeah, because it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. 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 For
Yeah.
sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, the worst thing you can ever do is just in any activity is just stop.
Mm.
Do you think? I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. No.
I just
Absolutely.
yeah. Go on.
Say again.
There was just
Well.
someone recently I was reading about, someone who just, I knew my Goju guys, and there's a guy he's a bit odd, and he said
Mm.
he stopped training and he just does Sanchin on his own because he said everything's in Sanchin. Yeah,
Right.
and you thought, okay then, you stop training, you Sanchin on your own in your garden, and kid yourself.
Yeah.
Unless I may be wrong, he's some sort of, you know, genius, and then maybe he'll you know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
who's that great guy we watch on Facebook? Who's on? Was it Marcellus? He's got the beach in he's
Oh yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Marcel Rodriguez here
Yeah, I
from
mean,
Australia.
I find him very inspiring. I
Yeah.
mean, I was thinking, I was watching the other day, and I thought, oh, I wish I lived on a beach and could do that. And I thought,
Yeah.
no, I can do it. I can do it in my garden.
Yeah. There'd be loads of Australians going, "Oh, look at that luscious green
Yeah,
garden.
green. It's
God, that's
cold,
amazing. If I had one of
cold
them,
and rainy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you know, like as long I think you've got to keep training.
Yeah.
And you've got to basically it keeps things fresh, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also, like I mean, you've got to, I'm trained. You've got to mix your training up. And the
Yeah.
terrible thing about training is just when you get really, I've been doing those set up down Sally, since
Yeah.
March, and I
Yeah.
can do it now. And I thought, you know
Okay.
what, I need to do something else now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That and again, letting it go.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the answer is never lose what you've got, but constantly look for something else and give it a go. And if you don't like it, chuck it away. Like a keto. A few years ago, I did a keto with Nev, my friend, and I quite enjoyed it. I did it for 3 months, and then I thought, you know what, it's not for me. But I enjoyed doing it, and I don't want to devote my life to early 17th century defences against someone trying to grab my sword. But I did enjoy it, and I let
Cool.
What about you? You think?
What do I think about that? I mean, roughly the same. And I think, I think the old often kind of informs the new and the new informs the old. So like learning something new can give you greater insight into what you already know and vice versa. I think if you're not enjoying what you do, then what's the point? And so like if you're just practicing the same things over and over again, then you're going to get bored. But equally, if you're constantly trying to search out or learning new stuff and feel that you're never achieving anything, then what's the point in that? So it's just that balancing act, isn't it? I think of trying to consolidate what you have and then expand, and then consolidate what you have and then expand, and then consolidate you have and then expand. And every time you consolidate, you're not going back to where you were. And then every time you expand, you're pushing the envelope. And so it's just that constant kind of growing in a kind of organic way. Expand, contract, expand, contract. That's how
the caveat to that, and I was thinking about this today, is you've got to be good at the one thing first.
Yeah.
You've got to, like Bruce Lee did Jeet Kune Do, which was, but he was like dead good at Wing Chun before he could do that. So it's Shu Ha Ri, and it's a bit like you can't occasionally you meet people. Is it better to have like be a shodan in kendo, judo, karate, keynote, show Dan in all of them, oh, I know all of them, or just before Dan in one of them.
Yeah.
And then start doing it. I think that's the problem. I mean, quite often, I think I've said this before, you see people who do like sort of a mixed martial arty or a jiu-jitsu system. I saw someone a while ago on Facebook, and they did their black belt grading, and they did 12 katas and a nunchaku form, and they had to like fight 10 people. You know, and it would have been awful, wouldn't it? You know, like, it's just like an endurance test.
I think you have to be able to recognize quality first.
Yeah, we're coming back to that again. Yeah.
And I think in order to recognize quality, you must experience it. So if you become good at one thing, and you can produce something of quality, even if it's just one thing, if you can do a quality gakuzuki and make all those connections and get all that body timing and make those kind of impactful kind of movements, and you get that one quality technique, then that's the building block. That because you're forever seeking what you already know in other things. But if you're just kind of dancing about and doing a bit of this and doing about blah, 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 you never understand what quality is. And you kind of flick out a gakuzuki and go, oh yeah, that's a good gakuzuki. And then you flick out a maegiri and it's meaninless.
But you see, I mean, I was talking to Paul, you know, today about, you know, the Ginambarai thing, and I'm thinking, you know, you look at that combination, and Paul was great. Paul was holding up like a higher level of doing it, and I'm thinking there's lots of people who don't do Ginambarai in Hami, you know, and then who can't do Nekawashi Dachi. So it's just different levels of doing it. So I said to Paul, you know, I teach it boom, boom, you know, basic, and then move on. Because if you can't do the form, you can't move on to hip movement or anything else. And that's the problem. I mean, you know, sometimes you bite your lip, you're teaching courses, and you're thinking, you can't do Zenkochidachi. If you can't do Zenkochidachi, or you know, I do lots of kicks, knee lift. You can't lift your knee up. You can't kick. Like Yokogeri, loads of people can't do Yokogeri because they can't lift the knee high up. You know, and you know, it's like this is your delivery system. And so that's the caveat. So you can kid yourself. Like, you know, this is a story in Funakoshi's book about a guy who learned poetry. He learned poetry from his master, and he only learned one poem for 10 years. Typical Japanese story. And he got really bored and left his master and started wandering around Japan. He's skint. And he walks into a pub or a Japanese. This is Funakoshi's story. And there's a poetry competition on. And he won because he did his one poetry, and it was the best poetry. And it's literally in Funakoshi's My Way of Life. And that little bit like that depth of one thing. And when I always teach classes that everyone should have a tofu waza. You should have a favorite technique, something you can rely on. And quite often I do classes and they go, what's your favorite technique? And they haven't got one. And you go like, Moving Zen, C.W. Nichols says in Moving Zen, he decided to make Gaiakuzuki his favorite technique. He spent hours doing it on the Makawara to the detriment of his other techniques. He's only a green belt. So he's a green belt and had a great Gaiakuzuki.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the answer. You need to have a really good core of the best you can do. And then you can do it, can't you?
Absolutely.
And then, you often talk about language. You can't learn poetry until you can, you know, talk more better than other people.
Yes, that's correct.
There you go. Okay. We've gone clever again, haven't we now?
Okay.
Your question or my question? It's my question.
I think it's yours. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what was this is Paul Ulrich. What was the last book that you read and inspired you? I know what the last book you read, because same as me. What was the last book that inspired you?
I read Chasing Bushido by Richard Amos Sensei.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean, it's like, and it's inspiring, and I really liked it, and it's a story that it obviously, for many reasons, resonated with me, and so that is the last book I read, and it's like I recommend everyone kind of who.
I enjoyed it. I thought you could.
I reckon anybody like I'm trying like. Okay, I'll just put it like it seems like I'm saying this out of grinded teeth, you know. No, but like no, I did, and I you know, as someone who's written a similar story, I
That's
recommend
my next question. Yeah.
everyone who has any interest in or passing interest in Shotokan karate reads that, because it's a truly unique story. It's very different from mine, and it's a different take, I guess, on the instructor's course, and it's his truth, and I really respect that, and I think that it was inspiring in the sense that it. It was inspiring in the sense that he was the one who inspired me to go to Japan in many ways, and like I met him when I was 17 years old, and I met him at York University when he writes about it in the book, where he went to York University with Take Your University, and that was before he started the instructor's course. I think, yeah, it was before he started the instructor's course. Was it? Yeah, it was. Definitely was before the instructor's course, and he could speak fluent Japanese, or he probably wouldn't think, but like in my mind, as a 17-year-old kind of, I think second Q, whatever it was, I was seeing this guy who was 27 years old who spoke perfect Japanese, and he was fighting. We had a team fight at the end of the weekend, and I fought on the foreign side, and all the Tokyo University students fought on their side, and Richard. And I remember distinctly all the Japanese going, Richardo-san, Richard, gambatte, Richardo-san, gambatte. And they were like, I didn't know what they were saying, but they were probably saying gambatte. But I remember them saying Richardo-san, and then something. And they were all behind him. And I thought, Jesus, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to be that. And so although the book wasn't inspiring, what he wrote about inspired me. Like, you know, I mean, like, not completely. It wasn't as if when I met him I was like, that's what I want to do, because I'd already decided that that's what I want to do. But like meeting him and seeing that and watching him made me realize how possible it was. And so yeah, that was the last book I read, and what he wrote about was inspiring to me.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, I read it as well, and I know what he did was amazing. I mean, I read. Well, there's one book I want to mention called "Never Heal Up" by Michael Boucher, who's my Facebook friend at the moment. And he went to Japan in the 80s, and he like kind of went as a normal guy, you know, and he just went trained at the Hotsukan. And I'd highly recommend it as just like your average karate Joe, you know, who's good.
Yeah.
Who basically went and trained at the Hotsukan, trained at Ebis, and then he was there for 3 months. And it's just a great. It just wanted me to get in a time machine and go to Izakaya and get drunk and then go and train in Japan. It was just a wonderful. But the last one, I've actually got it because Paul gave me the question. The 2 books I'm reading now, I'm interested in this idea of an ordeal. So, like, you know, this idea of Shugyo and the instructor's course is like this ordeal. People go on pilgrimages, and people, it seems to be a deep part of people. So I read this book it's got this day called Domestique, because I love cycling. And this is about an English guy from York who basically went to France at 17, a bit like going to Japan, learned French, and the great line, I've only read the first chapter, and he said he was 17 and lived with lonely men in France who basically suffered every day cycling.
Oh, really?
And he'd gone from being an amateur, and he'd won everything. Absolutely. And his first year as a professional cyclist, he dropped out of every race or came last. And it was just the title is "I Had to Do It." So I mean, and he's basically, the book's great, and the book he never won a professional race in his life, but he was a professional cyclist for 11 years.
Okay,
that kind of resonates, you know, like as that sort of in Angry White Pajamas, Robert Trigger, who wrote that, he talks about seeing Enter the Dragon, which Richard mentions, and the opening scene. There's all those extras doing terrible chokuzukis. And he goes, I knew I'd never be Bruce Lee, but I could be one of them guys on Hans Island. And that's kind of this guy who's like in this, you know, one of the hardest sports in the world. Just making this precarious living. You know, like I think Richard talks about being with the greats, and you know, and he certainly was. And you know, is it Stan Smith called it the Hornet's Nest or something? You know, but most karate people can never aspire to that, but we can all kind of train hard. And the very last book I read, which is this one, which is the Marathon Monks of Mount Hiei. and they are Shingon Buddhist monks, because I'm doing lots of long distance running, and they run 52 miles a day.
Really?
And, yeah, 52 miles a day in straw sandals
Wow.
for 100 days.
Wow.
And I can't remember the exact figures now, but yeah, it's a 100-day stretch, and something like, a bit like the instructor's course, only 47 monks have ever done it.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a little bit like, and it's still famous. There's one living guy who does it, and
Yeah.
and I kind of think there's something in that, in people, humanity at large, that who want to do this, put themselves in an ordeal.
Yeah.
And I find that inspiring, because I'm one of them as well.
Yeah.
So I literally supported my friend Nick Lister, who ran 500 miles in 2 weeks, and I supported him as the first. And it's mad and foolish, but kind of wonderful.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I don't want to get all deeply philosophical, but
Well, I think this is what we need to do after a couple of. Have a drink. Cheers.
yeah, cheers.
This is kind of what we do, isn't it?
Mm. I think
one of the reasons, like, I think we've said this before, for most of my life, I've never enjoyed karate.
yeah, I know.
We've
like
talked about this before, and I've always found that quite important, really.
yeah,
And going back to training with Rick Jackson, it's brought that back to me again.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've said before, like the enjoyment of karate is in the cathartic release of yame.
Yeah.
Like
doing 152 miles, 100 days, the days of release is when you get to day 100.
Yeah, yeah.
Or winning a cycle race at the end of the race.
Yeah, I think all those kind of endurance feats are ways of trying to release yourself from the physical. I think, like, I've been doing loads of watching, not like I don't do so much reading, but I do a lot of kind of watching, as in, like going down a rabbit warren of YouTube videos and stuff like that. Yeah. And I've been doing a lot of like watching stuff about the nature of consciousness and what makes consciousness. And obviously, it's that hard question that nobody really knows. Nobody really kind of can qualify it. But one of the things that I always just think is that everything that we try to do, like, it's almost like the punishment of the human form, the body, is to kind of separate that kind of mind-body connection. I don't mean it that way, actually. I don't mean it that way in the sandwich. I try to not separate, because it's inseparable, but in order to push your body to that extreme, you have to realize that the body is just a machine. And it's really, the only way that can get you through that is by pure consciousnness. And once you kind of get to that point where you're, doing the 100 days or 52 miles a day, or what Nick did, the 500 miles is to push your body so much that you realize it is just a machine, and you realize that it's only conscious thought that's doing it. And once you're there, then it gives you another sense of reality, I think. And I think that's why people do it. They're looking for an altered, heightened state of reality, which is not separating their body from the mind, but realizing that the body is in complete control, or is being completely controlled by the mind. That's what I...
With Nick, I spent 2 days with Nick in the camper van. So my friend Nick ran 500 miles, if anyone doesn't know. And on the third day, his ankle swelled up. He went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you should just go home. And he spent 2 days not doing anything. And then he said, and I just thought we won't be able to do it, because you need to average now. I think you need to average now 48 miles a day for the rest of the trip. And he said something clicked in his head. I mean, maybe we've all experienced this to some extent, maybe to a greater or lesser degree. And it's something clicked in his head, and he just did it.
Yeah.
It was like ridiculous. He was actually, he did a bit of walking and a couple of things, and and then suddenly something clicked and he did it, which is really interesting. Yeah. The other book I've just read is Bill Bryson's The Body, which is a great book, a user's guide. And he's got a line about the brain. And, and this is going back to Rick, our reality is purely what our this brain decides in here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a great line is that there are no colors, there are no sounds, there are no anything. You know, radio waves don't make no sound waves don't make a sound. Light waves don't have light.
Yeah.
It's a great quote, and we're all processed by this little thing in the hippocampus here in our head, which is about that big. So you know, we all live in the matrix.
It's all a construct.
So I think what we're trying to do. We're always trying to feed this brain, aren't we?
Yeah.
And it seems for some people, hurty, mad training is what they need.
Yeah.
You know, and other people don't want to do that.
There's a great TED talk by a guy called Donald Hoffman about the construction of reality. Yeah. And he's done a lot of work, and there's I can't remember the other guy who's did a lot of work about kind of like our senses are just plug-in sensors. So our eyes, nose, ears, blah blah blah, they just plug in, and so they found that, for example, you can have kind of a kind of sound receptor, and you can hook that up to kind of a jacket that produces kind of pulses, like and for every frequency it's a unique pulse, but like it kind of like it's irregular. So the same frequency, it's the same biofeedback. So you get biofeedback, right? And they found that deaf people pick up these on a subconscious level. Initially, it's just like the chest plate that they're wearing vibrates. It's vibrating. Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, relax. Just allow it to vibrate. Eventually, their brain will translate that to sound. They can do that with vision as well. They can stick a camera onto the chest plate type thing, and it'll so every time they see a shape or a color, it'll be translated to a certain thing, like a bit like echolocation type thing. Yeah, and eventually the brain will translate it into vision. And so what they're saying is that it's just a plug in. So from that kind of man-made plug-in sensor, your brain will eventually see or hear and stuff like that. And certainly Donald Hoffman is amazing. He talks about kind of like the everything's a construct, including space-time, including our sense of these fundamental constants. Space-time is a construct. And I think I don't know that's what that's got to do with karate, but
no, but I find it quite scary because we just we're basically living in a pitch black room, and basically everything we see is it's like samsara. It's a different way. In Buddhist terms, it's illusion, it's maya, it's chaos. But our brain will always make. Our brain. There's a guy called Maurice Merleau-Ponty, a French philosopher, and he says our brain always creates order. So if you see fluffy clouds in the sky, we'll see order, and that's the way. Totally random, we'll find a way. And there's loads of those illustrations. The duck rabbit illustration. As soon as someone puts it into it, you will see, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
okay, let's
karate. I'm not sure where that takes us.
Well, I've got other thoughts about that, about like the collective subconscious and how I think that like there's paradigm shifts because if one group, one person, one kind of conscious kind of point of consciousness starts doing it, it's very rapidly kind of sent to elsewhere. But that's another discussion. Maybe ask me about that another time.
Karate to some extent, isn't it? I mean, everyone wanted to be Kanazawa Sensei. Everybody wanted to be, possibly.
Yeah.
Anyway, next question.
I've got a question for you. So,
all right then. Who'd win in a fight between Godzilla and St. George?
So, no.
Not that question.
So the question is, so like, you're obviously, for your vast majority of your professional life, you were a comedian.
Yes.
And obviously I've never had a job in my life apart from teaching karate.
Yes.
And things are changing. Things are obviously rapidly changing. And I think people who have maybe done karate all their life, like me, or a vast majority of the professional career, are kind of facing new challenges, and certainly coronavirus has set up a whole host of challenges that I think most of which we haven't even realised yet.
Well, most comedians,
but,
you know, my contemporaries or who are still doing it, I spoke to one today, are in the same boat. Yeah.
So my question is, are we unemployable? I mean, like I say that knowing that
I've
you've
got a
already
job.
got.
You know, I'm a special educational needs teacher now,
So,
so I'm not. Yeah. But you are you
so that's my
dinosaurs?
question.
Maybe are you dinosaurs?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean that in the sense that, like, if I say, are we dinosaurs, that means that, like, our skill set no longer is relevant. I don't mean that at all. I mean, do you think it's going to be difficult for people like your comedian friends
Yeah.
to, well, maybe dinosaurs, but are they going to be able to evolve? Are they going to be able to take their skill set, move it forward somewhere, or have they become, after decades maybe of being a self-employed comedian or a self-employed karate instructor, blah blah blah, are they able to move beyond that?
No, a friend of mine, Susan Murray, she messaged me today and she said she's never had a job. She applied for a job and she didn't with the ambulance service as an emergency caller. And I think she'd be quite good at that. And she failed the exam. So she basically sort of went back and ginned up on it and then failed it again. And I think just because,
Really?
Yeah, because I think she found it hard to take it seriously because it's a bit boring and there's no jokes in it. And, you know, I mean, and she's a smart woman, but yeah, I think it's, you know, it's a bit like, I don't know, you know, when the Meiji Restoration happened, all the samurai became redundant, you know, and became Ronin. All they could do was be samurai, and no one wanted that anymore. So it's very hard, especially, you know, especially perhaps the older school karateka, my dogs, the byway or the highway lot, must be quite hard for them, you know, because karate's changed. Well, you know, and like, I mean, I always remember Steve Carroll said to me he didn't want to teach kids because he was, you know, and I think the model now is definitely has changed, hasn't it? So yeah, I think unless you've got a degree, you've got a teaching qualification, nothing like me. So you are eminently unemployable, but I employable. But I would think there's lots of people out there who aren't. And
some people struggle. Yeah.
Well, it all depends. I mean, you know what you learn in life. You know, is everything changes.
Yeah.
And you know, the great silent movie stars could never imagine talking pictures would never last. You know, circuit comedians thought this would go on forever, and it hasn't. Things change. You know, monolithic karate superstars, you know, who could just charge lots of money, travel first class, be lavishly treated like living gods, suddenly can't anymore. Things have changed. So it's how you adapt to change that defines you, really. You know, change or die, really. That's what it is. So I know, that also comes down to ego. You know, it's like, Leo, don't you know who I am? Think. You know, I always used to say to you, I used to be on Channel 5, you know, and it's like a joke. But, you know, people have to let that go, you know, and it's like, you can't go, I'm a Dan karate master. You know, if you're charging like 900 quid a course and expect people to, you know, fly you, you know, it's diminishing returns, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I think, you know, like all of us have to be in the moment, see what's happening, and adjust to it, and expect nothing, because you know you'll fall flat on your bum. Eventually, you'll be found out. I think.
Yeah.
You know, or unless you're lucky enough to get away with it. You know, and you know some people do.
Yeah.
You know, some people die and they've got away with it.
Yeah. Okay.
What a cheerful one this is. This is my turn now. I tell you what, while we're talking about books and stuff, I recently had a look at Karate Stupid again. Do you ever think about Karate Stupid, and do you want to talk about that a little bit or not? You don't want to.
Well, but, you know. like there's a copy copy of the book in the dojo, you know, like on the reception area that people can, like
Yeah.
parents when they were allowed to come and sit and watch their kids train, they kind of pick up and read. And I often joke at like saying, oh yeah, I should read that, you know, because I've never read it. I wrote it, I just didn't read it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
So
not true. It's fake news.
yeah,
Never went
yeah,
to Japan.
so I don't really think about it. No, I see it every time I walk into the dojo because there's a copy in the reception. But do I think about it? No, not really. Like I've just finished the most recent draft of my novel. I got back from my editor, and I had loads of things to change and add and blah blah blah. So like the vast majority of the time for the last couple of years, I've been only really thinking about the novel I'm writing. So yeah, I don't really think beyond what I'm doing now. Not really particularly what I've done in the past.
You don't regret it, though, do you?
Oh no, not at all. No. I'm proud. Dare I say to have pride? But I'm proud of the book. Yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of what I wrote and how it turned out. And yeah, that's and beyond that, I don't really think about it.
Well, it's about, I actually think don't look back. It's like, I posted something today about my comedy life.
Yeah.
Did a gig in Paris, and I just found it's nice to see. But I don't think about that anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's important to move on, isn't it? There's nothing worse than sort of living in the past. And in karate, again, there's lots of living in the past stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's definitely in the now or looking forward, because nobody really cares if you were on telly in the 90s or whatever. And you're like that with instructors course, because you could still keep on harping on about that, couldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think much about that either. It's just like I think I've done more since then.
Just in terms of people, it's sort of, I think it's bad marketing. If you put on your poster, I don't know, I don't know, British national karate champion 1982.
Yeah.
It's not relevant anymore. I think it's important. It's important to move on.
Yeah.
You've moved on from your book, and you're writing a spy novel now.
I am. Yes.
And devoting your life to elastic bands.
Yeah. Whatever keeps me occupied. Okay. Right. I think we should have one more question each because time's marching on.
I've got a shorter question to finish on, which is relevant to now, and then one question. Is this my question or yours? What's your question?
Is it mine? Okay.
Yeah, because I've just asked you about Karate Stupid.
Okay, sure. So my last question then. Okay. What do you think are the weaknesses of the HDKI?
Okay. We haven't got a load of people in their 20s who are into kumite and into pushing the karate. So I really regret the fact that we haven't got that demographic in yet. And
That's in GB. That's in GB. That's in HDKI GB.
Sorry, not Ireland. Sorry, Ireland have got that. This is GB. So HDKI generally.
Well, yeah, whatever way you want to answer it, but yeah.
Personally, because in GB, we've got our demographic is kids and older people. There's nothing, which is great. And I really wish. I mean, I've been speaking to some people this week about it, and I'd like an injection of young, seriously fit. Not that I like competition karate, but I'd like to have some really good, young, upcoming instructors and people.
Yeah.
My dream would be to have like second and third dans joining, who could start to have a future with us.
Yeah.
Who could do the internship with you, could have a competition career.
Yeah.
And that would be my dream, rather than. So that's the big weakness for the GB. And all we can do with that is wait for them to come.
Yeah.
And when they come. I mean, globally, I think it's hard to keep. I don't know, is it good or bad we don't keep track of people? So.
In the group?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we sort of do keep, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I touch base with most people most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard. And it's increasingly harder as it grows, of course. But I mean, I do try. If I haven't heard or spoken to some like a kind of senior within a different country in a month period, maybe a 2 month period, then I will drop them a line, just say, hey, how are you doing? Everything okay?
Yeah,
Anything?
well, I do that. I do that in Britain, yeah, and
Yeah,
also we're on Facebook. I mean, we're very, I know it's only Facebook, but
yeah,
I always like Macedonia,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
always like me. So
yeah,
there is a connection. I think maybe, and this is a tricky one. One of the weaknesses that maybe we're completely reasonable and
yeah.
non sort of dogmatic.
Mm,
So like people often ask me questions, and I won't give them a sort of you must do it this way. Like lots, I still get questions about standardization of kata and stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And, I think there's a craving in people who just want to be told how to do something. Though, so today, Anne and Rolf, who are lovely from Sweden, sent
mm,
me a message about Ginambarai, Uchigakuzuki in the
yeah,
syllabus.
yeah,
And me, which is, I mean, gosh, it was fantastic. I mean, one of the strengths is that purple belts and brown belts from Sweden are
yeah,
comfortable to talk to me and Paul about technique. I mean, it's
yeah,
wonderful. So
yeah,
that's good. But we typically didn't give them a definite answer.
yeah,
So I said at your level, I do it like this.
yeah.
And then Paul gave his answer. Paul gave his answer, which was a great answer. And I
Mm,
said, well, black belt level, do it like Paul.
yeah,
So I think maybe people love those absolutes
yeah,
because I've said this loads of times. People like certainty, and we don't offer that. So maybe we're a bit wishy-washy. Some people say to me, they think it's what happened. Well, somebody said to me, "What happens if you died?"
who, me?
Yeah, yeah. And this is a guy in America who talked about joining, I think his perception then that it was a Scott Langley association.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I
which
mean, I think that,
go on.
I was going to say, yeah, that ultimately that could ultimately be one of the weaknesses, and but I think we are trying to rectify that, like and that's going to take years, I think,
Yeah,
before there's people that, but even now there's very senior people within the group that are pushing the group forward, just as much so as me, so that's fine, but yeah, for the next generation that'll take a number of years to build, I guess,
but
but
also, you see, that's not necessarily a weakness because, like, the Yahara's association is the Yahara association. SKI was Kanazawa. I mean,
yeah,
that's not necessarily a weakness, you know. So,
yeah, well, it is if you want legacy.
well, that's
I
what
mean,
we
like,
do. See, from my point of view, because we want legacy,
yeah,
that's what
I'm
we
sure,
want. But I'm
yeah,
sure a lot of, I mean, Kanazawa has got a big family of kids.
yeah,
ASKF has Okasaki's nephew runs it, so it's a
yeah,
family business. It's a family business. I'm going to be honest with that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
some organisations, when the main man, it's always men, when they die, they just crumble, right? Or they split.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, what do you think the weak? What do you think are the weaknesses is?
Well, I mean, I think I'd probably say that we're vulnerable in some areas at the moment. We're vulnerable, I guess, in some sort of legacy. So, like, if I suddenly go, okay, I'm sick of this, I'm not going to teach anymore, or if I, like yesterday, I was crossing the road and I nearly got hit by a bus and tore my wife's head. Well, that would have been such a cliche if you got hit by a bus. Um, and
James Dean, you'd be a legend.
yeah, oh yeah, died before his time. But like, so there's a vulnerability there within the group. Um,
Yeah,
in the sense that like we haven't got that whole legacy plan, or the plan hasn't. We've got the plan. It just hasn't been fulfilled yet. So I'd see that as a vulnerability, but not a particularly weakness because we've identified it and we're dealing with it. It just takes time. I think a weakness would be that we're 3.5 years old now, and we've gone from nothing to 16 countries, and there's thousands and thousands of members worldwide, and it's almost to the point where it becomes very difficult for me to maintain that personal contact with
yeah,
everyone,
yeah,
and it's slowly starting to morph where there's a couple of affiliates who aren't particularly connected to me, they're connected to other senior instructors, and like, you know, you and like maybe Guy Sensei and even Ross, and you know, like there's people who are starting to gravitate to other people, and that's how it should be, because I can only service a certain section of or a certain group within the community. So, but I do see it as a weakness and it's very difficult to kind of orchestrate that in some way. Like, you know, like if a group joins and I can't say, oh, I don't have time for you, so you're going to be Simon's friend. You know, like it doesn't quite work like that. Although you hope that it will, and say, okay, look, I'm here for you, but your go-to person would be Simon or Ross or Guy or who.
I think you need that though, don't you? Because you know you can't. You're not a control freak, but you can't.
No.
Can you? You know.
No, and so I do see it as a little bit of a weakness, because it's so hard to kind of orchestrate that. It's so hard to kind of to make sure that happens, because it'll happen naturally. We hope, and if it happens naturally, great. And if it doesn't, then we have an issue, because then it becomes unmanageable, and then people feel kind of like disconnected. Oh, I can never get hold of Scott.
Well, like with other organisations, people try to be draconian, and people just cheated. You know, like people get. It's a bit like so I don't know. JK tried to run it like the Roman Empire, and all the money went to Rome, and and basically lots of people just didn't do that. And there's loads, terrible stories of people who got the show down. It was like it wasn't a JKA one, or So it's tricky. I know. So whenever you deal with people, there'll always be problems, won't there?
Yeah. I think also one of our weaknesses is that we want to make sure that we don't do too much a academic style of karate. You know, like that paralysis through analysis. That ultimately.
But that's why I do my hard, sweaty classes.
Yeah. So that's always a balance. Well,
I was thinking about that the other day, actually. Talking to Paul. Even when me and Paul were sending these messages, mine was far more basic than his. Mine was like, do proper Zen Kutadachi, work on that, work on compression, build your then strength, and drive in. And which is a very basic level of doing it. But I think you need to do that before you can think about you have to do like a whip.
Absolutely.
I think maybe going back to one of your earlier questions was, what I should do is give myself to karate by doing my vision of karate. Which is less technical but physical and about training. Well, because I'll tie this into the last question then, because what you're good at is like sharing top of the bill with people. So when you do a course, you've done courses, with lots of other good people. So we've got Rick Houghton coming tomorrow. You're training with Rick tomorrow, and we know what you've done is it's not all in-house, and I think that's pretty much unprecedented in the karate world, really. Yeah,
I guess so. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe.
I think it is. I mean, in Japan, it's maybe Naka Sensei did it. Anyone who's in Takashoka University, trained. And SKI is always SKI, KGB, or you'd never get a guest instructor on SKI, KGB, all them sort of things. And you've a great history of doing stuff with. I remember trying to get Morad Sensei a work visa here. He's fantastic. But he's from the group of Felipe Sensei, and now Rick. And Rick's HDKI, but he's like part of the family, isn't he? And I like that because we just train with people who are good. So my question was a little bit, training with Rick tomorrow, doing a course with Rick tomorrow. Tell us a bit about Rick, how you met Rick. You met Rick, didn't you, online?
Well, so what happened was that in 2014, obviously we quite quickly and unexpectedly left the JKS. And at that time, I was doing the same. I would invite kind of non-JKS instructors, far less.
You get in trouble, like when we did Tamon Sense. You got in trouble.
I'd get into trouble, but I would do it. We had Steve Ubel Sensei over, we had Richard Amos Sensei over, we had a number of kind of non-JKS instructors over, but a lot of JKS instructors, and I was still kind of running in Ireland. 4 big seminars a year, and most of them with 2 visiting instructors. So I would have at least 8, if not more, visiting instructors a year to my group in Ireland. And all of a sudden, the JKS instructors were, Bob, not only will we not come to teach for you anymore, we won't even speak to you. We'll defriend you from Facebook and blah, blah, like the normal stuff. So I still had a kind of community to service, and so I started looking about going, well, who am I going to invite? And it was at that time that someone just sent me it was Hans Ranner, actually.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Hans Ranner said, only literally days after I left the JKS, he sent me a message saying, have you seen this guy? And I looked at it, and it was Rick, and
Right.
he put up a number of videos, and so I was like, oh, that he looks good, he looks interesting. And what impressed me actually was he did Oizuki almost identical to how Steve Uppal does Oizuki. It was quite a unique way that they do it, and really interesting way that they
That
kind of.
tucking in the back leg when he moves.
Say
No,
again, sorry?
was that tucking in the back leg when he moves, starting with that tuck? Maybe not.
No,
No.
like,
No.
it was just like a very deep connection between the back leg drive and the plunging hand. I mean, like if you see both the Oizukis, they are quite similar in many ways. But anyway,
Anyway, yeah.
so I thought, oh, he's interesting. So I thought, I wonder if he's on Facebook. So I kind of went onto Facebook and I searched for him, and then at that point realized that we were already friends on Facebook.
Okay.
So I sent him a message. And I said, hey, Rick, my name's Scott. I teach karate full-time in Dublin. I've seen a couple of your videos. I really like them. Have you ever thought about teaching in Ireland? And we later looked at it, and that was 3 days after he posted his first video.
Wow.
And well, he posted a number of videos.
Yeah,
At
I
the same
remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, and he'd started his channel. So 3 days after he started his channel, I sent him a message. And he was like, hey, yeah, I know you. I've seen your videos. Yeah, great. And he says, no, I've never taught in Europe. He said, I haven't even taught in Tallahassee, never mind Europe, and that's how it started. And I was like, well, you've got to come over. And so, like, I'd already arranged, I had a kind of spring camp and I had a summer camp. I think you came over for the spring camp.
He came to me as well. Yeah, afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in Ireland.
Oh, like,
so,
yeah.
so you came and taught in Dublin in the spring of 2014, and I can't remember who came in the summer. It was somebody else. But then so the next available slot was the September.
Yeah.
Of 2014, and so he came over. He taught for me, and then he went over to the UK and he did a tour of the UK, and so that was the first time he kind of taught in Europe. Subsequent to kind of me inviting him, Sonny Kim, then from Cincinnati, who sadly passed away, but Sonny invited him. So the first gig he ever did was in the summer of 2014 in Cincinnati. So I was the first person to invite him, and Sonny was the first person to get him, if you know what I mean. So that's how it worked out. And so he taught a course in Cincinnati in the summer, and they taught for us in the September of 2014, and then he continued to put those videos out, and that's how he like nothing to do with me or you or Sonny inviting him. Like the more the videos, and he got kind of a widespread kind of exposure that way. And so yeah, that's how we met.
Well, I mean, what was great about when you share, and as from sort of comedian terms, you share the bill. It's not a support act. It's like it's like you can deal with anyone teaching differently to you, and you don't find that threatening, which is again unusual or higher, heretical even.
Yeah, I just I love karate, and I want to see different stuff and learn different stuff, and I can remember
they're going to be good, haven't they? They've got quality, or they're good.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think I said this to Anne and Rolf when they said, I said, if you can justify what you're doing, it's right.
Yeah.
I said, if you know what you're doing, you know why you're doing it, it's right. And then so someone like Rick's karate is different to your karate, but we can all see it's got quality to it.
Yeah, I remember Einar Hagen coming over He was
Oh yeah.
an instructor based in Iceland.
Yeah.
And, actually, maybe it was him that came over in the summer. I think it was. I think you
Yeah.
came in 2014. You came in the spring. Einar came in the summer, and then I think Rick came in the September. And I remember Einar saying to me, he's like, "Oh, what do you want me to teach?" And I was like, well, "Teach what you want." He's like, "Well, he says there's quite a few things that I do differently from you."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Yeah, excellent. Teach them."
Yeah.
It's like why teach what I like? If I do it, then I already know it, and like so I want to see something else. I want to nick ideas. So when I'm teaching abroad or teaching seminars, I can not teach the same old rubbish every single time. I want to kind of evolve and develop. So yeah, always looking for something interesting.
There's two models for the karate teacher. Really, one is to be the entertainer, is to
Yeah,
do something that no one else can do, and go,
yeah,
wow, whoa, that's good. We can't do it. And the other one is to, everyone needs a little bit of that. And the other one is to give something you can nick. Steal
yeah,
my art is
yeah,
the basis of kung fu,
yeah,
basic everything. I nick stuff from you. I can't do your karate, but I nick little bits of it
yeah,
and nick bits of Rick. And
yeah.
that's what you want, isn't it? And
That's,
I see Morad Sensei. I love Morad Sensei, what he
yeah,
does. And I can't do that. I mean, 10, 20 years ago, I could do all of that. But
yeah,
now I can't. But I
yeah,
still nick bits of his compression, but
yeah,
also then I get the inspiration of him going, "Don't let your sidekick go. Still stick with it."
yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think that's the beauty of it, rather than getting more of the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if all those monolithic organizations is you get, oh, we're going to do 150 Chokuzukis, and then
Uh,
and those dead kata classes where you just
yeah,
copy the moves.
yeah, yeah,
And then you go, oh yeah, we did an hour of Sochin. No, you did an hour of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. People
yeah,
fighting.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm being flippant, but it's true, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But
Well, go
I,
on.
sometimes that's what you know. I just once, I won't say who it was, but I trained with a very senior Japanese instructor in the UK once,
Yeah.
and it was that he just counted. He
Well,
went through.
I've done lots of those classes.
Yeah,
I love them. They're really good because you come
but
out
like,
feeling good about yourself.
well, no, but like he just counted. I mean, it wasn't particularly even hard. It wasn't strenuous in any way. It was just like, okay, Ido Kilon up and down, H knee, and then all the katas, and then it's like, and then I came out, and like me and my mate went training, and we were the only ones that weren't connected to or weren't part of that organization, and everybody else in the change room afterwards going, oh, what do you think? That was brilliant, yeah, fantastic. And we're like, oh yeah, it was great, yeah, thanks very much, yeah, it was like, thanks for letting us come train. I'm thinking, oh, you deluded. Like, what did you do? You did nothing. But
But you see, it's whether you want to feel, whether you want to feel good about what you did in a fake way. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure you have. I've spent my whole karate life thinking I'm rubbish,
yeah,
or I always want to come away from a class. I never want to think nailed it, did it all.
yeah.
I always want to come away, and I think this is the mystery of karate do.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always something, and that's what keeps older people doing it, because it never ends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
You never think, right, I can do unsu, I've mastered karate.
yeah,
And I think that's maybe one of the most important parts of karate. Once you've got it all, you're stuck.
yeah, absolutely.
And that, I remember you sent me that message. Go, just train with Steve Rubel. Oh, my Gaguzuki's all wrong. Good. And there's a lot of people in the karate world who would hate
Yeah.
And I love that, really. I love that. Just wait a just when you think you've got it, there's more. And that's kind of like keeping you alive and keeping it going.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why bother, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, karate knowledge never ends, but this talk must. Because my wife will be going, where are you? Come on, it's dinner time.
We've covered a lot of ground again.
We have.
To anyone, the person who doesn't like it, click no, don't like now.
Yeah. No, they did it. They didn't even watch this. They just went into it, clicked dislike, and left the video straight away.
All of these things, like we get 5 people watch it at the beginning, and then like it's just
just
family and friends.
Okay, Simon says Dave.
Well, yeah, just before we go, I just saw your thing about Spain again. There's a little beacon of hope in tricky times.
Yes.
Hopefully, HDKI seminar and Cup will happen in March, is it, in Barcelona?
I have high confidence that by March we'll have at least got to a point where we can gather together in large numbers.
Yeah. With you, Rick Jackson, who we all know is fantastic, and Guy Brudier from Canada.
Yeah.
That'd be good, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. It'd be a great seminar.
Yeah.
And then followed by a great
I'm coming. Well, it'll be sunny as well because it's March.
I know, yeah, it'd be lovely, yeah. It'd be fantastic. We'll have a great time.
Yeah.
So, something to look forward to.
Yeah. Shirinji Campo.
All right, mate.
Hasta mañana.
Yeah, talk to you again. We'll do this again soon. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.